After the last two videos, I think it's finally time to chill for a bit because the next video might be a bit of a doozy. I can only talk about existential crisis for so much. So today, I want to return to my roots and ask a really important question. Just how much of a character's lore is translated into their kit? Obviously, not a whole lot. Certain characters are tremendously nerfed to the ground for balancing reasons. Characters like the Archons, Zhao, Tartaglia, and the Traveler don't have full access to their kits. But it seems that even the more human characters have those nerfs. For example, Chongyun was built with utmost resilience to the cult, but still suffers from Dragonspine's effects. So that begs the question, just what are the full potential kits and strengths of each character? Today, I want to answer that by looking at Mondstadt's finest soldiers, the Knights of Favonius. Or specifically, the two starter characters, Outrider Amber and Cavalry Captain Kaeya. However, what I'm interested in isn't just their overall strength in combat, but also the implications of their status, knowledge, and talents, as well as how they utilize their own key strengths. This will be the first part of a series, so consider subscribing if you like this kind of content. The criteria of what I'll be covering is as follows. Notable skill sets, such as tactics, strategies, and other combat proficiencies. Actual abilities that come from their visions. Notable strengths from their backgrounds that contribute to their usefulness. And lastly, other important strengths or traits that increase their overall power. So let's begin. Outrider Amber is known as the only Outrider in the entirety of the Knights of Favonius after her grandfather's departure. In lore, Amber is known for her amazing agility akin to a rabbit. Being an Outrider, it is crucial that she bears both speed and dexterity when traversing any terrain. As seen in the manga, Amber has outstanding acrobatics and reflexes, capable of switching positions almost immediately before getting spotted. She seems to be strategic with how she places herself on the battlefield, and knows that her range and mobility are her best assets. We see her positioning herself around the perimeter to take down both Barnabas and the Hilichurl. She's also able to maneuver both horizontally and vertically in significant speeds. She is known as a gliding champion, which means she's adept in aerial maneuvers. But she can also climb trees rapidly while hopping from branch to branch. While being pursued by a newly robified Dr. Krupp, she's able to dodge most of its attacks by circling around her opponent. Her preferred method of hand-to-hand combat is by kicking, which is really funny to me since she's the rabbit girl. But more significantly is her use of the pyro element. In the manga, we actually see more uses of her vision besides combat. And for Amber, it's the channeling of pyro energies into other media to imbue them with fire. Besides just her attacks, she is able to set a rock on fire and use it as incendiary projectile against a Hilichurl. We also see that she is able to imbue her arrows with fire, and that she was able to imbue Jean's attacks with pyro. This could also be what the Bearing Bunny really is. Just a mechanical toy with imbued pyro. In the manga, Amber can also willingly detonate Baron Bunny as seen when she tried to stop Kaeya. Additionally, Amber's shots are relatively powerful. When fighting Barnabas, an agent of Ildatoria's division, we see that she tries to constantly outmaneuver him by jumping around the place. This causes Barnabas to be blindsided to most of Amber's attacks. Such attacks include the following. We see that her concentrated pyro shot is capable of repelling other attacks. On the other hand, she can also rapidly fire multiple arrows in one shot. One panel shows her shooting 3 arrows at once, and another shows her shooting 1 arrow which spreads into 5 separate projectiles. Additionally, we also see her fiery rain in the manga when she fights the empowered Barnabas, and when her arrows do pierce through Barnabas, they are able to detonate. But last but not the least is an ability we have never seen from her in-game, the manipulation of a fire dome. She used this fire dome to block against an empowered Barnabas. But it doesn't seem like the shield is that strong because it shatters after several attacks. It seems that it takes a significant toll on Amber to keep the shield up, and it requires her own concentration. Amber is a formidable foe in battle. With her sharpshooter skills and her amazing agility, it's almost impossible to keep her down, and trying to keep up with her is a difficult feat in and of itself. She definitely deserves her Outrider title. For Kaeya, he's a character whose ability in lore actually reflects the main theme of his in-game kit. First is Kaeya's in-lore combat tactics. Kaeya is the cunning and skilled cavalry captain of the Knights of Favonius. With his many connections and his tactical wit, he uses his enemies' panic and emotion to fog their own judgment in a situation. He enjoys seeing emotion in a person's eyes in battle, both friend and foe. Additionally, his method of combat tends to rely more on deception and versatility rather than the overall safety or moral of a situation. For example, To force a bandit leader into facing him directly, Kaeya triggered a ruin guard to draw him out, which subsequently put his own companions at risk. Kaeya is a master manipulator and constantly taunts his enemies to get the upper hand. Conversely, he himself understands how powerful emotions can be on a battlefield and opts to maintain a cool and level head throughout everything he does. But his skills don't just stay on tactics. Kaeya shows his amazing ability in ice conjuration. In-game, this is shown by his crystals and the way he creates ice bridges, but in lore, his ability is vastly versatile. We can definitely see why he has such a high status, since most of the ice structures he makes are relatively resilient. First is that he is able to create ice shards from his palm. The shards themselves are either thin or small, which makes them difficult to both see and dodge. However, when the ice shards connect to a surface, the ice starts spreading and creates a patch of stalagmites and frost. Another is that Kaeya is capable of creating walls of ice. These walls can either be jagged pillars of frost or rectangular blocks. These are usually used to either trap foes in place or block projectiles. They appear almost instantaneously and are relatively massive. These were strong enough to repel Diluc's black chains from his illusion and Cole's empowered unarmed strikes. When Cole made contact with these blocks with her bare hands, she was immediately taken with frostbite. Kaeya is also capable of creating weapons from ice, which in this case was a sword. I actually think it's interesting to note Kaeya's fighting style in his fight with Cole. He remains relatively at a distance and tries to cut off her path as much as possible. He uses long-range attacks and projectiles despite being a sword user. It's Cole that engages, not him. However, I think it's the context of his plan and how he executes it that I think Kaeya is a strong enemy. Kaeya is weaponizing both the mental and physical fortitude of his opponent. Specifically, he wants to keep her on the field long enough so that Amber can see Cole for who he thought she was. By whittling Cole down enough to make the Archon residue show itself, he's trying to see if he can find the liar he thinks Cole is. I think it's fascinating to see a character's fighting style since it's never really touched upon in-game. And by looking at Kaeya's, you can definitely see why he's respected and feared. And with that, I really just wanted to talk about Amber and Kaeya, thank you! I think it's fascinating that there's a hidden part of a character by looking at their lore, and I really wanted to start the series off with two characters that seem so different than their in-game counterpart versus their visual novel one. And speaking of visual novels, this video was partnered with Bilibili Comics, a wonderful site where you can read amazing visual novels of all sorts of genres. I have started reading God of Deception because I personally really like Hyper and Tracer characters. So yeah, check out the link in the description or pinned comment below. On a side note, as for the last starter character, let's just say we're saving her for something special.